Hi, this is Elisa with Mirror Image Crafts. Today we're going to make this card. This was from my Sale-A-Bration class, and this is the first card we're going to make, and the one that I got the idea for from a leadership card that I saw back in January. So first let's talk about the supplies that you need to make this card. First I've got my cardstock, which I've already cut. This is my card base. I'm using basic black, and I've cut it long way instead. So I've got a 4 1/4 by 11 inch piece of cardstock, which I'll fold in half for my card base. I've got a 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 piece of Whisper White, and then I've got a panel that's 5 1/4 by 4 inches, and this is in crumb cake. And then I also have a scrap piece of Whisper White that we'll stamp on and then punch. Also you will need, speaking of punches, this is the modern label punch that we'll use. This is the 2 1/2 inch circle punch that we're going to use. You'll want to use some black, basic black classic ink or StazOn if you prefer, your favorite black ink that you like. We're going to use Stampin' Dimensionals and snail adhesive. We're going to use, it's about 10 to 12 inches of black satin ribbon. And then the stamp set we're using is Fresh Vintage, and it's a celebration item. And we're going to use this image and this image in the stamp set. And then I also will be pulling in a sentiment from Teeny Tiny Wishes. But for this card we're going to use something other than Thinking of You, maybe Happy Birthday or something else. So haven't decided yet, so we'll pull that in just in a little bit. And also I'm going to be using my craft scissors. You may also hear me call them ribbon scissors from time to time. So I think that's all of our supplies, aside from the Simply Scored scoring tool that we're going to use right at the beginning. So I'll be right back and we'll get started. Our first step for this card is to take our card base piece, and because I've cut it long way, it's going to be much easier to fold it if I get a good score line in the middle. So I'm using the fairly new Simply Scored scoring tool from Stampin' Up! And I find myself using this even on just regular card bases all the time, and of course for other projects that need scoring. So I've just really enjoyed having this. It's very lightweight, easy to move around. It just stays on my craft table most of the time. It comes with this stylus that we're going to use. The stylus has 2 different size ends. One's kind of a bigger end, which is nice to use for designer series paper that's a little thinner than cardstock, and then the smaller end is good for thicker paper such as your cardstock. So that's what I'm going to use this time. It's got marks at every 1/8 of an inch, and I want to fold this in half. So since it's 11 inches, I'm going to do at 5 1/2. So you just pull it straight down. You don't want to tilt your stylus sideways or anything. You just want to bring it straight down without lifting up until you get past your cardstock. And then the stylus stores right down here in its own little compartment. And then we are done with this tool for now, and then I'm just going to fold my cardstock right in half, and it's just perfect. So let me move this out of the way and we'll get started. Okay, I've set my card base aside for a little while because we don't need it quite yet. The first thing I want to do is take my piece of crumb cake cardstock, and I'm going to punch a hole in it using my 2 1/2 inch circle punch. What you're going to want to do is punch it upside down, as we usually do. And I'm going to put my punch in till the paper can't go any farther, and then I'm going to center my punch in between these 2 sides. I'm trying to get it centered, but the circle is going to be kind of up towards the top of my card. And once I have it where I want it, I just simply punch it out. Then I can save this piece to use on another project. I like to do that. Then we have our window for the front of our card. Next, using my Fresh Vintage stamp set, I'm going to take this stamped image right here and place it on my clear block so that I can stamp it right here on the front of my card. So in case you haven't used a clear mount stamp before, these clear mount stamps, you do have to have blocks to place them on. So that's what I'm doing right now. I just found my corresponding block that works with this stamp, and you just press it on there until it sticks. If you find that your stamp isn't sticking to your block very well, it probably just means that your block needs to be cleaned, and you can clean them with a very mild detergent such as Dawn dishwashing liquid. Okay, so I have my stamp mounted on my clear block, and for this card I'm going to use my StazOn ink. It's not too different from the black classic ink. Sometimes it's a little crisper. I find it's crisper mainly just because I need to re-ink my other black ink pad, but just for something different I'm going to use the StazOn. So I want to just stamp it right here on the front of my card. There we go. And I purposely wanted it kind of off the bottom of the circle. So I'll move that out of my way for now. And while I have my StazOn out, I want to stamp my other image from Fresh Vintage, which is this flower image. So again, I'm going to put it on a clear block. Then I'm going to turn it over to ink it. And then on my square piece of white cardstock, I'm just going to stamp this image right in the middle. Lift up. There we go. And one more piece of stamping that I need to do is with my teeny tiny wishes on my scrap piece of white. So I will be right back with that stamp set to stamp that image. Okay, so for this card I've decided to use my Get Well Wishes from the Teeny Tiny Wishes stamp set. This stamp set comes with a whole bunch of different sentiments in it, and they're a really nice size just for cute little sentiments that you can punch out pretty easily. So I like that stamp set a lot. So I'm going to stamp this one real quick using my black StazOn also. And put my StazOn away because we are ready to punch out this Get Well Wishes, but I want to show you a trick to do that. Okay, now we're ready to punch out my Get Well Wishes sentiment. And as you'll see with the Modern Label Punch, it's quite a bit longer than what my sentiment is, but I can make it shorter, and here's the trick to do that. So I'm going to just punch it the first time with my sentiment off to one side. Okay. And then I'm going to take some temporary adhesive, place it on the back, and then put it on another piece of paper. I'm just doing this so that I can still position my punch in there. Otherwise I won't have enough to hold on to. And then I just move it over and punch it again until I get the size that I want. And then I've got my little Get Well Wishes sentiment to use on my card in just a moment. So we'll set that aside. Next, what I want to do is put adhesive, again temporary adhesive, on my white panel, just right here along all four sides. And it's just temporary just because I'm trying to get placement on where I want it, because I'm actually going to put this up on dimensionals. I have to hold it up so I can see it. Okay, so I have the white piece positioned where I want it in the window. So now I'm just going to take just a pencil Just kind of mark very lightly where that's going to go. You could just eyeball this and skip this step, but I kind of like seeing exactly where it's going to go. And then now I can put my dimensionals on here. The dimensionals are going to go on the back of this crumb cake piece. Then I want to put dimensionals right here too. I'm avoiding putting any here because this is where our ribbon's going to go. Okay, so using my pencil lines that I had on here, I took the white piece off too soon. I'm positioning that back where I had it originally with the temporary adhesive, and then I'm going to put the snail adhesive on the back of this white piece so that I can go ahead and stick that down onto my card base. Okay, so here's my card base, and I'm not sticking down this crumb cake piece yet because I still have my paper backing on my dimensionals. I'm just trying to get placement on this white piece that I have. So I'm just centering that and then sticking down the white piece. And then I'm going to take this crumb cake piece back off. Remember, it's just being held onto the white piece with the temporary adhesive. Oh. Lost the backs of my dimensionals. Okay, so then this white panel is exactly where I want it on the card. So I can erase my temporary pencil marks. Then also I can just take my finger and take my temporary adhesive off of there. Okay, so I have that all removed. Now I am ready to place this piece on here, but what I want to do first is lay my ribbon underneath it. Then I'm going to remove my paper backing from my Stampin' Dimensionals. And place my crumb cake piece centered on the front of my card. Okay, there we go. Now I'm ready to tie my ribbon. And to do that, I'm just going to tie it off to one side. Again, me tying ribbon on camera, not the best thing on earth, but there we go. We got the job done. Then I just trim with my ribbon scissors, just a little bit. And my dimensionals are going to keep that ribbon from coming all the way off the card, but you could certainly put a glue dot or some other adhesive underneath the ribbon if you wanted to, if you're worried about it coming off. And then last but not least, with my snail adhesive, just on one side of the back of my sentiment, I'm just going to place it right onto my card. And there you have it. There is the card recreated for you, just with a different sentiment. I hope you've enjoyed that card. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you soon. Bye.